So let's just start with some demo. Enough PowerPoint for the day. How about let's start with some demo. So once you click into Dashboard Designer, you can see we have, organized everything according to either the dashboard or charts. In a dashboard, all of you will come pre-installed, if you may, two dashboards already. One for each data sets we have available, which is devices and people dashboard. So to give you a general overview of a dashboard, it is a very, I would say, quite industry standard dashboard look, right? You have different widgets. Each chart is its own widget, and you can organize around with it. And you can have different operations you can do in each chart. I'm going to go cover a bit next, but just to give you, an overview of how the dashboards look like. Pretty colorful. So let's go into a little bit depth of how do you create your first chart. So you can simply add a chart. Like I said, 1, 2, 3. You pick a data set. In this case, let's try with a simpler use case of data set. How about we'll start with people? Then you pick a chart type. We start with 4 chart types, 5 chart types here. You can see we have, big number, which is KPI. We have bar chart, line chart, pie chart, and table. But don't let that, five, don't let that think, oh, only 5 charts. Actually, if you take a look at it more detail, which I will show a little bit more in the tricks and tips, actually there's a way more charts. For example, you can turn a line chart into area chart. A pie chart can only be a donut chart. So even though it looks like there's only 5 here, if we fine grain it, think about the chart type as more, fine grain variation, we actually have way more chart types than 5. But in this particular case, let's stick with a KPI as a quick demo. So you pick, like I said, 1, 2, 3, you pick the chart type, you pick the data set, and then now you drag and drop the field. So we choose to use a quite interactive user interface where you can just drag and drop. So metrics, so KPI, let's do something simple. I just want to count how many, people are there in the system. So then in that case, all you have to do is really just drop a count, create chart, and there it is. I know this is a demo tenant, so it's a bit weird. We only have 27 people in this demo tenant. Bear with me. This is a demo tenant. So that's it. Voila. You drag and drop the field, and that's how you created your first chart. And for example, if I want to break it down, how about we'll do something else different? How about let's create a pie chart instead? I still want to count the number of people, but how about this time, let's break it down by different office. So you drag the office field into breakdown by, you update chart, and voila, now you have a pie chart breakdown of your employee people by the different offices. To save is just as simple, right? You click save, give it a name, people by office, and then you can actually create a new dashboard, new demo, save and go to dashboard, and voila, that's how you create your first chart in your first dashboard. And as like any good dashboarding tool, you can really edit the layout. Not only you have all the charts I just mentioned, we also have layout elements. So for example, you can add a header. If you have lots of information, you can even using tabs to organize it. And other than that, for example, you can make your charts bigger. You can make your charts smaller. You can move them around. Editing layout is also very, very simple on a dashboard. And once you have the dashboard created, there's a few ways you can share with it. Share with other people because you spent a good time on a beautiful dashboard. It's time to share it around. So we have ability to if you just want to share with a specific group of people, you can share by email. Then they will get the link. And of course, they would have to still be a Neuron members to click in to log on to see it. But you can share by email. Or if you think, well, I would really want everybody in my team to see it. I want everybody who has a view permission to see a dashboard. So we're talking about a bigger group of distribution. That actually all you have to do is click this button. The moment you click publish, that means everybody in your tenant with a real permission can see this. So this is a very good way, I would say, to share dashboarding with different members of your team. And that is at the dashboard level. And looking at the chart level, there is a lot of things you can do for the charts. From the most common use case of I just want to download the data behind this specific chart, you can do that. You can download to Excel. You can drill to detail. So I'll say, for example, I can drill to detail to see who are in this office, and you can see we have two people in this office, and you can see who they are. You can drill to detail. And obviously, you can also enter full screen so you can see that chart better. So a very full function dashboarding tool. So that is all the basic you need to know to create your first dashboards. So now somebody will say, Susan, this is all simple, good. I want to get into more depth into it. I want to know more tricks and tips how to create better dashboards with the Dashboard Designer. That's good. I'm going to go talk about that next. So there's a few points. So first of all, you can mix and match. So for example, I said in the beginning, we have two data sets to begin with. We have people data set and devices data set. So what you actually can do is you can have a dashboard with charts from different data sets. And I think this is very good, especially for dashboard. Sometimes you especially want to do the executive level dashboard, right? Then you would want different data within one view. We always say a single pane of glass, and you can do that with our Dashboard Designer. We start with two, but I can say on our roadmap, we will continue to add more data set to our Dashboard Designer. So a little spoiler alert, the next data set we're going to add is DEX score, for example, our digital experience score. So yes, once again, you could have data set from 2 sources, 3 sources, or more in one dashboard. So you can mix and match. The second I want to talk about is play with time. So in the 2 data sets we actually have quite a bit of, I'll show you. We actually have quite a bit of date time fields for you to play with. So for example, and especially quite important for the devices data set too. For example, when was the last time somebody logged on that device? When was last time it was discovered? When was the last time vulnerability scan was happened? So those are all quite key, timestamp fields. And for that, we have a lot of way to play with it and manipulate it with it. So the first time, and this is a question I got asked from an actual customer, is how to filter it. And I'm really proud to say our Dashboard Designer have quite a bit of filtering capability. So for example, we have a simple one from last week, right, to previous, based on calendar and not just a straight week, but a calendar week. We have all those predefined options, but my favorite one is the advanced option. So for example, I want to see devices not log on in a month. So for example, all I have to do is they allow kind of a natural language string, and you can say last month. For example, you just have to type in it. So that means, and they have a really good way to tell you what type of time filter you selected. For example, then I would have any value that is smaller than last month. It will be filtered. It will be included. So for example, you don't even have to specify what that month is. You can really simply type out last month. And of course, it worked for the string as well, say last year. And I absolutely love this use features. I have to say, I spent some time when I'm pre-processing data just to pick out the month, the year, for example. So this is absolutely fantastic. So that is one cool way of filtering we have. And another way you can play with time is, for example, basic timeline. We do have pretty good timeline charts here. So for example, the moment you pick the x-axis, so in this particular case, usually in this kind of timeline, the x-axis is time. You can see right away, you can easily change the time grain. You don't even have to worry about how do I, pre-process, how do I wrangle the data. The tool will let you easily, just as simple as picking, do you want to do a time grain by hour, by week? All the options are there. Absolutely simple to use. But that's not all. There is even more cool capability here. So for example, this is actually called a data zoom. If you like finance, if you always Google Finance, looking at stock data, then this is a pretty cool time control for you to control the time, for you to zoom in and zoom out with time. So even this kind of control will make it so much easier if you want to do a line chart. But such an easy control for for your users to focus on a specific time range to have. And another one, like I said earlier, is not just a line chart. You can even turn it into an area chart. So absolutely lots of customizability on Dashboard Designer. You can really do a lot of things. And even just, to do something to do with time, we have so many ways to filter it, so many ways to present it. I really hope you have a good time playing around. Like I said, the title, Play with Time. So after that, then filter. I filter, this is, I would say, probably one of the basic capability on the dashboard. But even as you on Dashboard Designer, you can really filtering with Flare. There's 3 ways. Actually, I want to talk about 3 ways to filter. So the first of all is, the one that everybody probably expected is you can do filtering at the chart level. So for example, in this particular case, I want to filter, because of the, data set, I want to filter the data set that is not known. Very typical. I can, for example, want to also filter out printer. For example, we happen to have one category called a printer, and you say, probably this is not related to devices. I want to filter it out, and you can absolutely do that. So this is the most expected filtering option, but we do have other cooler filtering capabilities. The first one I want to talk about is a cross drill. What it means is, for example, let's look at here. For example, we have a chart that shows devices either managed or unmanaged. So for example, you know what? I just want to focus our dashboard on an unmanaged device. So you click on it right away. All the other 2 charts will automatically filter to only devices that are unmanaged. So now I know within unmanaged, a majority of them are Mac. And from Amazon, and they are the manufacturers at Amazon EC2. So this is the coolness about cross drill. You don't even need to set up a different filter. You just need to click on it, and suddenly everything else in the dashboard reacts to that. So this is really interactive, very intuitive. So if I click the other one, so if I just want to look at the manage, now I know most of the manage are virtual workstation from Microsoft. So absolutely easy to use. But that's not it. We have a third way for you to filter it, which is at the dashboard level. So for example, maybe if you have team members who specialize only in certain operating system, maybe you have one person looking at Mac and one person looking at Windows, then you can add a dashboard level filter like here, so they can easily only look at Windows or any other operating system. So this makes people who have this filtering is on the whole dashboard level, and this makes it so much easier when your team have specific focuses. And after you have the dashboard level focus, your cross drill still works. And then I can further drill into only Windows and only ones that are managed, for example. So filtering option on dashboard is very, very robust, can accommodate a lot of different uses cases or team structures. Then next one, I will talk about conditions. So I think this is one of the best tricks I love with dashboards in general. Like I mentioned earlier, dashboard, there is a sense that you go back in it once in a while or even regularly, and you're tracking something. One key way to make the communication clearer is you use a traffic light. For example, you use alert. So you can set a threshold that when something exceeded or below a certain threshold, you will change it into the traffic light color. You can have an alert in red or yellow, for example. And this is going to be very good, for dashboarding to direct people's attention to specific metrics or you want to care about. And here I also want to go a little bit into the detail of how you can do it. We all know what happened last week. There's a lot of blue screens everywhere, isn't it? So as a result, I have to pick system failure, as a demo for the metric I. So let's just think about it. Obviously, this is a demo tenant, so we only have 50 system failure. So obviously this is a demo tenant. But for example, let's say if you want to track system failure, there's actually a few ways to do about it. So the first one is, I think this is probably the most straightforward one, is you will think, I'm going to count all the system failure across all my devices, right? So it really is just a sum of all the system failures across all my devices. And to customize it, I set a conditional rule like, well, if the sum it's more than 10, of course, this is a demo 10, and so I pick a number of 10. But if you say, if the number of system failure in the last 30 days is larger than 10, then I can have an alert. And we have quite a few options you can choose from. So for example, if you say, no, I don't like, I want to, stronger, I want to send a stronger statement, then you can choose, a more reddish font. And this is how you can set up a KPI that has conditional rules. But I want to say there's actually more ways to do that. For example, in this particular example, in this demo system, you only have 27, you don't have a lot of devices, so that may be okay. But you can imagine in a large customer setting a threshold on all the system failure across all devices are probably not the best idea, because summary statistic like that, you're going to get big number, and the information it convey may not be the largest. So for example, if you set the threshold too low and you have a lot of devices, well, guess what? This number will always be big and it always have an alert. So that is probably not the best idea. So another way we can model this is actually, how about we can model it such a way that first we have a filter on the number of failure in each device. So instead of looking at the number of system failure, we are now actually looking at number of devices. And this is also another trick when we do KPIs. It's always easier to communicate data insight like that when you're based on something that is natural. What I mean is system failure. Sometimes we all know, we can all visualize the blue screen in our head, but compared to an actual physical device that you can touch, you can lift it, you can play with it, devices are more natural unit to use. And when you communicate that, it registers better in people's mind. So in this particular case, so in this second example, so let's not use counting the system failure. Instead, we are counting the number of devices. And in this way, you can also set the threshold based on your preference. So for example, in this particular case, I want to count the number of devices that has more than 2 system failure in the last 2 days. So now suddenly you are cutting out a lot of devices out. You're focusing your attention, one, to a unit that is easily understandable. And second, we have the threshold earlier on, and so we don't 100% rely on the alert, the yellow or red alert. But that does not mean we do not do that. In this particular case, since I put the threshold and the number of system failure at the devices, for the conditional, I did not do additional conditionaling. Did I? So yes. So I say because I want to count the number of devices with more than to system failure, I did not put another condition on top of it. So pretty much as long as there's one device, more than zeros, one devices, the system alert will be on. So again, this is an example. It really is, the key point here is, you decide what is the threshold you want, and then think about how you're counting. How are you counting? Are you counting people? Are you counting devices? Or in this particular case, are you counting system failure? And then there are many options for you to set up this condition to communicate exactly what you want. And then last but not the least, there is also ability to not just rely on KPI. You can also do it as a table as well, for example.